Hi, I'm Hayley from Outback Equines, and today's training session is about float loading. So this is Diva. She's a gypsy cob filly there, and she's had a few sessions lately where she hasn't wanted to get on the float, and she's given her poor lovely owner a little bit of a time. Not getting on. So I've got my horsemanship training flag here, my Outback Equines one. I've got my clicker, I've got my treat pouch, I'm ready to go, and we'll see what happens. I haven't been at the last couple of training sessions with this little horse, so a little bit of resistance just there. As soon as the horse stopped resisting, now I release any pressure on the halter. If she starts going backwards, I'm just going to use a little bit of halter pressure and a little bit of driving pressure. And I'm going to be really consistent about the fact every time the horse gives that bit of pressure, I'll take the pressure off and I'll click and treat. What we know is that the click itself becomes a reward because they get nice little rushes of dopamine. So you can see this horse's involuntary reflex whenever she feels that head pressure is to throw her head up. She needs to learn that when she throws her head up, there's no release of pressure. Just give you a moment to think about that. Good girl. Good girl. And so right now her go button is not solid enough going forward that she's happy to go forward into anything. She also doesn't have enough of a positive outlook about the float. Go, well done. So she's got to understand that the answer to that pressure, excuse me, thank you, is to give to the pressure, no matter what. Good girl. Good girl. And you hear people talking about make the wrong thing difficult and the right thing easy. It's essentially what I'm doing here, but I don't want to run the horse around in 5 million circles and get her all sweaty and upset to get her in the float, because all I'm going to do is bring her heart rate up, bring her adrenaline up and her cortisol levels up, and ultimately not make the float a really pleasant experience for her. Good girl. Good girl. Yeah. Good girl. So you saw her give into the pressure there. So even though she didn't take a step, she's starting to understand when I put a bit of head pressure on, she's actually giving to that pressure instead of throwing her head up. Now we may get a few nice repetitions in this, and then we might get what we call an extinction burst, which is pretty common. So if you don't know what an extinction burst is, sign up to our free trial on our mentoring program. It's quite well documented in animal and human behavior. Good girl. So Diva's testing out that pressure release thing. She's trying to work out, is it the same answer every time? Good girl. So the best way to get through clear communication to them is not to get their cortisol levels up and their adrenaline levels up. Good girl. Yeah, because if she goes into that sympathetic nervous system where she's really highly stressed, and I try to put information through to her, it's like trying to talk to someone when you're in the middle of a really loud party and you're trying to hear what they've got to say, but you've got too much else going on in your mind. Well done, what a good girl. What a good girl. So I'm going to jackpot that. I'm going to give her numerous clicks, numerous treats. Now if she starts to go out, I won't click and I won't treat, obviously. I'm just going to hold a little bit of head pressure. Just give her a chance to make that decision. So she hasn't thrown her head up, but she also hasn't given to that pressure. Good. Good girl. She just gave a little bit then. Good. There's the head pressure up. There we go. Good girl. What a good girl. What a good girl she is. Where are you going? So get a little bit of driving pressure from my flag. You can see the horse is not scared of the flag. I talked about this in one of our last videos about how I don't want the horse to be frightened of the horsemanship flag. Yeah, she's got to learn to listen to it as far as the energy that I put through it. But I don't want her frightened. So while she's in here, what I can do is I can scratch her wither, which we know, science tells us now, that helps to drop their heart rate down by anything as much as 10 beats per minute. So if I can keep her adrenaline and her cortisol levels down, keep her heart rate down, keep her nice and relaxed in here, she's going to be more likely to want to come back in here. Good girl. So there's that extinction burst. So we had a number of good repetitions, and now we're getting an extinction burst. Good girl. What a good girl, yes. And more. So this is not me bribing the horse to get on the float. You won't see me out in front with food going, come on. This is me showing her through clicker training, and she understands what the click means. The click means yes, success. Yeah? Good girl. So every time she comes on, she learns that she earns herself her wage. And her wage is, by the look of it, Motivate Extra Cool. Every time she goes out, same answer. She's going to get the same answer. That there's pressure. I'm not going to let her take me off the float if I can help it. Same answer every time. Good. Come on, thank you. So now I'm clicking whenever she takes those back feet up. So she's having a good old think about that now. So this is her going back to that parasympathetic nervous system, yeah? So the parasympathetic system is our restful system. And that's where the salivary glands start working again. They start licking and chewing, breathing a bit more deeply. Their adrenaline levels go down, their cortisol levels go down. So there is a certain level of stress that this horse is going through, because the last few sessions she's had trying to get in have taken quite a number of hours, and she's been quite stressed about it. And I dare say so as her owner. So that's one of the things with float loading is, good girl, that it's really important that the handler stays relaxed as well, yeah? And that's one thing that I pride myself on, is not getting myself all upset. Good girl. Good, so there's that licking and chewing again. Oh, okay, right. Hey, this is a good place to be. And I guess the problem with most float loading situations is usually when we're going to put them on the float, we're trying to go somewhere. And as opposed to us just putting them in every day, I've run some clinics and some camps where my students have put their horses in the float every single day of the camp and just fed them in the float every day without traveling anywhere, just every day. Made it a really nice place to be. And good girl, good decision. And by the end of that camp, those horses don't want to get out of the float, because all they can think about is how nice the float is. So you notice just before she made her own decision about staying in the float, I didn't have to encourage her. And she walked forward, so I clicked and treated. She's now gone halfway out, well, not quite halfway out. Just using a little bit of head pressure. I'm now going to raise her with the driving pressure. Good girl. The moment she steps forward, I take, good girl. What a good girl she is. And I'm just going to keep reiterating in her mind what the float's about. You see, if I make a big deal about this and I start getting all stressed out and I start getting hard on her and running around in circles and getting her to raise her heart rate and start sweating and make out their hard work and all the rest of it, all I do is I confirm her belief about the float being pretty shite. And I don't want to do that. I want to start getting her to believe that the float is a really awesome place to be. I don't want her stressed about it at all. So my go-to in these situations is not to run them around till they're exhausted on the outside of the float. Yeah, ideally, I want to get them to a point that they walk in and they go, I like being in the float. This is a good place to be. So she's starting to make her own decisions about this. And you'll notice I'm shaping out when I click. So I'm starting to take longer between clicks, showing her that the longer she stays in here, the more chance she is of getting that little jackpot from her pokies. Good girl. So at the same time I can scratch her with her. And I know she's a little bit of an itchy horse, so she likes being scratched. So that's a great motivational tool for her as well. And you'll notice, you guys probably can't see in the video, but she's not sweaty at all. Now the last time this horse went to get on the float, the owner was there for 3 hours and she didn't get on. And then the time before that she took a couple of hours and managed to get her on, but it took quite a long time. And I've had a few of these cases lately. I had one horse I went to recently on the north side of Brisbane. The last floating session, it took them 3 days to get the horse on the float, which is a long time. And the horse got away from them numerous times. And in one session with clicker training, the horse was going on the float. I was putting the bar across and the horse didn't want to get off the float, and the owner was just astounded. And she said to me, oh, the last person who got him on, they had to run him around and they had to put a lot of pressure on him, and he finally got on. Well, we had him going on within about half an hour, 45 minutes, and he wanted to be on the float. And I was actually trying to tell him to get off the float by the end of the session because he loved it on there so much. But I found his currency, and his currency was food. And most horses, sorry darling, you dropped that one. Most horses, their currency is food. Food and scratches, yeah, and comfort. So if I can give her all three of those in here, then she's not going to want to get out. So before she makes a decision to get out of the float, I'm going to ask her to hop out of the float. Back, Diva. Back. Back, Diva. Good girl. Back. Lovely. Lovely. Good girl. Back, Diva. Ah, you didn't want to go all the way up that time. Okay, so what I want to do eventually is I want to get the horse to a point that I can walk down the back of them and get them to understand that even though I'm moving backwards, doesn't mean they move backwards. So I want to be able to float this horse on my own. If she keeps her feet still, I'll walk back to the front of her. You can take your head back to the front, darling. I want her to understand that even though I go back, she doesn't go back. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm shaping the horse and shaping the behaviour so the horse understands walk forward into the float or lead into the float. Yeah, because a lot of floating problems can be a leading problem or a forward problem. Forward into the float, park in the float, yeah? So this horse has a good park on the outside of the float, I know this. I want her to understand that when I go to the back of her, she keeps her feet still. So I'm just working on my park now. Not necessarily the floating, I'm working on my park. Good girl. Every time I click, that's a reward to her. She understands that I've just had successful behaviour and that a treat may or may not come to me, but they get excited about it nonetheless. I also want Diva to hear noises at the back here. Now she goes to walk out. I'm going to use a bit of driving pressure first up. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. What a good girl. So she understands driving. Good girl. Now she's going to learn that there's going to be noises in the float. Some of these are a bit stuck. noises doesn't mean to say that she moves her feet. I don't want you coming out, Diva. Diva. She's driving back in again. All the noises of the float. And I don't want her to think that that's a trigger or a signal for her to go anywhere or do anything. Relax. Take your head around the front for me. Go. Diva, stay there, please. What a good girl. So the last session, I kid you not, from the beginning of when we started filming now, this has taken, how long have we been here for now, Carly?
16 minutes.
16 minutes we've been here for. And she's on the float. Last session, 3 hours, and she still wasn't on the float. So if you needed any testament as to how clicker training works and how good clicker training is, or the combination of positive and negative reinforcement, you folks have just seen it now. So if you have got a horse that doesn't like to float load, and the last few times you tried to float it, it's taken you longer than about 2 or 3 minutes to put it on, I'd strongly suggest you look into these methods. Because all of my horses, when I go to put them on the float or put them on the truck, it's such a stress-free environment for them, and it's so stress-free for me. Because I kind of think horse floating and travelling is stressful enough on the road as it is, without having a horse that doesn't want to go in or that doesn't travel well. You can see now Diva's actually resting her back leg. So she's super chilled out right now. Super chilled out. I'm making lots of noise with the bar. And all she's doing is saying, yep, yep, Hayley, pay up. At some point you'll pay up, so I'm going to hang out here. And that's what I want, yeah? I want to know that I can open up the bar and she doesn't hear the bar open and consider that a trigger for her turn to get out, yeah? I want this horse to wait till I call her out before she decides to walk out of the float. I want to be able to move the bar, move the center divider onto her, off her. I'm just markering it every single time, letting her know, yep, 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 you're doing the right thing, yeah? So think of your clicker as a success marker. It's my way of saying to the horse, yes, successful behavior, you're doing the right thing, you're on the right track, this is a positive thing, don't be concerned. So I think she's done pretty good now. So now we're going to ask her to hop out. You're a good girl, aren't you? Yeah, you're a good girl. Are you ready? You want to go out now? Back? 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 Off you go. Back? What a good girl. You can keep going. You can keep going. Back. That's it. Back. So from me and Diva at Outback Equines, if you want to know more information about float loading, combined reinforcement, clicker training, go to our website outbackequines.com or drop us a line at Facebook and have a look at our mentoring program. There's a lot of information in there. We have a free 7-day trial and it will really help you with your float loading journey. I guarantee it. I see so many changes in these horses that have been bullied onto a float in the past, and now through clicker training they love being on the float. So I'd strongly suggest you give it a go. Okay, have a great day.